The father's justice. Matthew, please, don't look at me like that. Her voice trembled as I stood frozen in the doorway, the dim hotel lights spilling across the bed. Olivia and Brandon, tangled in sheets that were supposed to be ours. I didn't shout. I didn't move. It felt like my heart had dropped somewhere outside my body. The air was thick, the sound of the ocean faint through the balcony door. Everything normal except this moment. Have you ever trusted someone so completely that the idea of them destroying you never even crossed your mind? Just hours earlier, none of this existed. 10 years of marriage, 2 kids waiting back home, a life built on routines and promises that felt unbreakable. This trip to Cancun with Chris and Megan, it was supposed to fix things, or at least remind us who we used to be. I remember watching Olivia on the beach that afternoon, the sunlight catching her hair, thinking how lucky I still was. I believed in her, completely, without hesitation, without doubt. So how did we get from that moment to this one, in the same room, on the same day? The beach was exactly what we needed. Warm sand underfoot, sunlight stretching across the water. Chris was laughing somewhere behind me, while Megan adjusted her towel. I leaned back, letting the sound of waves settle everything. And that's when I noticed him. Brandon stood a short distance away, not looking at the ocean, not at the crowd, just at Olivia. At first, I thought it was nothing. People glance at each other all the time. But then Olivia looked back. Not quickly, not awkwardly. She held it for a second longer than normal, a faint smile forming like she recognized something unspoken. I watched it happen in silence, telling myself I was reading too much into it. There was no reason to question her. Not here. Not after everything we had built. Still, something felt off, like a small shift in a familiar rhythm. "I'll grab us drinks," she said, already standing before I could answer. I nodded, watching her walk toward the bar, and a moment later, he followed. When I glanced over, they were talking, relaxed, close enough that it didn't look like strangers anymore. I exhaled slowly, forcing myself to look away, because sometimes it's easier to protect your peace than to question what might break it. But how long can you ignore something your instincts won't let go of? We were getting ready to go out that night, the room softly lit, music faint from the hallway. Olivia was standing by the bathroom mirror when she suddenly pressed her fingers to her temple. "My head. I don't feel right," she murmured, her voice low, almost fragile. I stepped closer, watching her reflection. "Then I'll stay. We can skip tonight," I said, already reaching for my jacket to put it back. She shook her head quickly, forcing a small smile. "No, you should go. Don't ruin your night because of me." Her tone was gentle, reassuring, almost too smooth. I hesitated for a second, then nodded. It made sense. People get headaches. Travel does that. Still, something about how easily she insisted lingered in the back of my mind. But I trusted her. 10 years of marriage doesn't leave room for doubt. Not like that. Sometimes, the biggest mistake isn't ignoring the truth. It's believing there's no truth to find. I grabbed my keys, told her to rest, and walked out the door, not realizing that in that quiet moment, I had just given her exactly what she needed: space. And what happens when trust creates the perfect opportunity? I didn't plan to go back. Not that soon. It was just a stain on my shirt, a dark splash of sauce near the collar that caught my eye under the bar lights. "I'll be right back," I told Chris, already stepping outside to grab a cab. The ride felt shorter than it should have. City lights passing in streaks, my phone quiet in my hand. When I reached the hallway, everything seemed normal. Carpet muted under my shoes, distant laughter behind closed doors. Then I heard it, faint at first, a sound that didn't belong, soft, uneven, unmistakable. I stopped right in front of our door, my hand hovering over the handle. For a second, I told myself it had to be the room next door. It had to be anything else, but it wasn't. I pushed the door open slowly, and everything shifted. The light from the bedside lamp cast a warm glow across the bed, sheets twisted, shadows moving where they shouldn't be. Olivia and Brandon, too close, too familiar, frozen only when they saw me. Time didn't stop. It just slowed enough for every detail to sink in. The distance between us, the space that used to be ours. I didn't feel anger, not yet, just a hollow weight pressing through my chest. What the hell is this? The words came out flat, almost quiet. Brandon scrambled first, grabbing his clothes, avoiding my eyes, mumbling something I didn't even register before rushing past me and out the door. I didn't move to stop him. I didn't move at all. Olivia stayed there, pulling the sheets around herself, staring at me like I was the one who had walked in wrong. And standing there, in that room that no longer felt like mine, I realized this wasn't just a moment. It was something that had already been set in motion, long before I opened that door. Olivia pulled the sheets tighter around herself, her hands shaking as she looked up at me. "Matthew, I'm sorry. Please. I don't know what I was thinking." Her voice broke between words, tears already running down her face. I didn't move closer. I didn't raise my voice. I just stood there, watching her, the lamp casting uneven shadows across the room. "You don't know?" I said quietly, almost steady. She shook her head, crying harder. I felt, I don't know, bored, and he made me feel something again, like I was alive. The words hung there, thin, fragile, but not enough to hold anything together. I let out a slow breath, my eyes fixed on her. "This didn't just happen," I said, each word landing flat. "You looked at him, you talked to him, you lied to me, and then you chose this." She tried to interrupt, reaching out, but I stepped back. "You didn't lose control, you gave it away." The room felt smaller with every second, like the walls were closing in around what was left of us. Because this wasn't one mistake, it was a path, and every step on it had been taken before tonight. So if this didn't start here, then when did it really begin? I moved through the room without saying anything, pulling clothes from the closet, folding them with steady hands that didn't feel like mine. Olivia followed me, her steps uneven on the floor. "Matthew, please, don't do this," she whispered, reaching for my arm. Her fingers brushed my skin, and I pulled away without looking at her. The panic in her voice didn't reach me anymore. Whatever had been there before was gone, replaced by something cold, distant, final. I picked up my phone and typed a short message to Chris. "Something happened. I'm not coming back." I didn't explain. I didn't need to. A few minutes later, I walked out with my bag, the hallway lights too bright against everything I had just seen. The new hotel room was smaller, quieter, the air heavier than it should have been. I lay on the bed fully dressed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about my kids, their voices, the way they said goodnight before we left. I thought about every "I love you" Olivia had said, replaying them until they didn't sound real anymore. Morning came without rest. When I saw her again, I didn't hesitate. "I'm filing for divorce. I'm taking the kids, and your parents will know the truth." My voice didn't shake. It didn't rise. It just settled between us, like something already decided. And if this was the moment everything ended, then what would she do when she realized there was no way back? I told her parents everything the moment we got back. Not over the phone, not through a message, but sitting across from them at their dining table, where we had shared so many normal nights before. The room was quiet except for the low hum of the ceiling fan, her mother's hands resting stiffly on the table, her father staring at me, waiting. I didn't rush it. I laid it out clearly. What happened? Where? Who was involved? No exaggeration, no anger, just facts. Her mother's face changed first, confusion turning into something heavier, her lips pressing together as her eyes filled. Her father leaned back slowly, his jaw tightening, the kind of silence that carries weight. "Is this true?" he asked, not to me, but to the space where she should have been. When Olivia finally spoke, her voice barely held together, and that was enough. The disappointment in that room didn't explode. It settled, deep and permanent. They didn't defend her. They didn't question me. They nodded, quietly, choosing truth over comfort. In that moment, she didn't just lose me. She lost the way they saw her. the place she had always held without question. Because betrayal doesn't stay between two people, it spreads, touching every connection around it. And once that shift happens, can any of it ever return to what it was before? The divorce took 7 months, long enough for every detail to be pulled into the open under fluorescent lights in quiet courtrooms. Meetings with lawyers filled my weeks, documents spread across polished tables, signatures that felt heavier each time I put pen to paper. Custody became the center of everything, not just where the kids would live, but what kind of life they would have moving forward. Olivia tried to argue for shared time, for the stability she no longer had. But her parents sat behind me more than once, not speaking, just present, and that presence mattered. It showed a pattern, a shift, something the court could see without needing words. When the decision finally came, it was clear. I kept the house, the place the kids called home, and I was granted full custody. Olivia stood across the room, quiet, her expression distant, like she already knew before it was said. She had been staying with a friend, moving from one temporary space to another, nothing settled, nothing certain, because this wasn't just about what she did, it was about what followed. Betrayal doesn't end with a moment. It carries through finances, through legal lines, through every structure built around a family. And once those foundations shift, what's left to stand on? The house felt different at first, quieter in the mornings, the sound of footsteps, replacing what used to be conversations. I focused on small things, making breakfast before school, checking homework at the kitchen table, keeping the lights warm in the evenings so it still felt like home. Chris and Megan stopped by often, not with questions, just presence, bringing normal back in pieces. Her parents came too, slower, more careful, but steady in the way they showed up for the kids. When Olivia came to pick them up for her visits, she stood by the door a second longer than necessary, her eyes searching for something she couldn't reach anymore. I didn't avoid her. I just didn't feel anything I needed to act on. The anger had passed somewhere along the way, replaced by something quieter, acceptance that settled without asking permission. Trust, once broken, doesn't rebuild itself just because someone regrets losing it. And a family isn't something you test, it's something you protect before there's anything to fix. If this story made you stop for a moment, think about what matters, then stay, follow, be part of the conversation. Because I still wonder, if you were standing where I stood, would you have chosen to forgive, or would you have walked away without looking back?